Hi, Gussie. You asked for a video explanation of a benchmark fraction. Well, you really don't need to know all of them right now. There are several benchmark fractions. For example, you have 1/2, 1/4, 3/4, but we're going to only focus on the 1/2, the 1/2. Now, what do they mean by a benchmark fraction? A benchmark fraction helps you to organize where a number compares to all of the other numbers on a number line. So right here I have 3/8. Okay. Now, if I wanted to know if 3/8 was less than, equal to, or greater than 1/2, I'm going to use the strategy of imagining where it would be on this number line. Now, if you remember from Mrs. Rome's lesson about putting numbers on a number line, you know first what you have to do is partition this number line in the correct number of pieces. Since this denominator is 8, that means I need to evenly partition this number line into 8 pieces. Now, this one's going to be easy because 8 is an even number. Since it's an even number, I'm going to start by dividing it in half. And then I'm going to take each part and divide it in half until I get to 8 parts. So I'm going to do this side from this point to this point, divide it in half. And then from the midpoint to this point, divide it in half. And if I take a look at it, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. But I'm trying to get to 8 parts. So what I'm going to do is take each of the 4 parts and divide it in half again. So I just go right down the middle as close as I can because I'm freehanding this. I'm not using a straight edge or a ruler. So now I count. Let's see how many parts I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. So I'm going to make sure I highlight where my midpoint is. Now, we said that that midpoint, because this is an even number, we cut this into 1/2. So I'm going to put 1/2 right here. Now, you're probably wondering, why did I put 1/2 if you just said all of the denominators have to end in 8? Well, remember, 1/2 is a benchmark fraction, and 8 can be divided into half, okay? But I need to figure out what that halfway mark is using the denominator of 8. So I could simply just go through and number my parts. So if I drag my pencil, let me get a color for you because that might help. Okay, so this part right here, this much, that one's not colored. This one's got to work on getting some more colors. Okay, so from here to here, this part right here is just one out of the 8 pieces. And I'll rotate colors so that you can see. From here to here, I've now covered 2/8 of the pieces. Don't lose track. What I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out where is this number on here, and then I'll explain why this benchmark is so important, okay? So now from here to here. So now, so far, if I'm driving, I've covered 3/8 of the way, okay? From here to here brings me another 8, so this would be 4/8. And remember, we said it's the benchmark 1/2. I'm going to keep going so that you can see. This is 5/8. 6/8. 7/8. And if you cover all of it, that is 8/8. Now, what does it mean by benchmark? Well, I did not have to number all of these on the number line to show you how 3/8 compare, but I do want you to see. This is your benchmark right here, 1/2. So if someone asks you, is 3/8 greater than, equal to, or less than 1/2, I know that if I look, 3 is not quite half of what it takes to make an 8, okay? Half of 8 is 4. 3 is less than 4. So that means 4/8 would be exactly half. But because I only have 3 of whatever the half would be here, that means 3/8 is less than 1/2. Now you might need to rewind that and play it again, but I will explain it again for you. 1/2 is the benchmark. 1/2 expressed as a fraction with a denominator of 8 would be 4/8. When I analyze 3/8 compared to 4/8, 4 is exactly half of 8. 3 is less than 4, so that means 3/8 is less than 1/2. Now, Mrs. Rome will send you another video, but right now all you need to know is the benchmark fraction of 1/2. Is it greater than 1/2? Is it equal to 1/2? Or is it less than? Now, it gets tricky when you get denominators that are odd. Let's say, for example, 3/7. It gets tricky because you cannot split a 7 into a half and get a whole number. You're going to get a decimal number. We covered this in class because if you split 7 in half, you have to think of what is half of 6. Half of 6 is 3, and then you have to add that 0.5. So if I drew a number line for this one, and I don't even need to think about it, just put a line halfway because that's my benchmark. So I'll put the 1/2 right here. And I need to figure out what's half of 7. Well, half of 7 is half of whatever comes before it. So that's 3 because 6 comes before 7. And then I add half of another whole. So it would be 3 5/10 over 7. That's the halfway mark. Okay. Now, if you look, 3 5/10 is a little more than just 3. So if I compare this to this, which one is less? Well, 3. If you have $3.50, that's more than $3. So that means that 3/7, that mark is going to come before 1/2. Okay? It's less than. So it'll come before that 1/2. Let's do another one right quick. I'll do another easy one. So say, for instance, you have, let's do 2/6. Draw a number line. I'm going to put my benchmark fraction on there, which is 1/2. And now I need to think about what is half of 6. That's right, 3. 3 is half of 6. So I'm going to put that right here. Well, if 3 is half of 6, that means 2/6 is less than 1/2. Or 2/6 is less than 3/6. That's how simple it is. Let me do another challenge one for you, and then you can practice. So say, for instance, I have 4/9. Doesn't matter. I put my benchmark fraction of 1/2. Now, I can't think of half of 9 because that's an odd number. So I need to think of half of the even number that comes before it, which is 8. What's half of 8? 4. Now I need to make a 9, so I'm going to put a 0.5, okay? All over 9, okay? So now I look at 4.5 is more than 4. So if 4.5 is more than 4, that means 4/9 comes before 4 5/10 over 9, okay? I hope this helped, Gussie. Rewatch the video a few times and see if you can catch on, and I'll also link another video for you to practice. Bye, sweetheart.